Garland Nixon here. We're hanging out with Matt Weinglass, and we got one or two things to discuss from the Epstein files. Let's talk. Hello, Garland Nixon here. We're hanging out with Matt Weinglass. He's in Southern California, the Hollywood area, and we're going to talk about a couple of things. Before we get going, we're going to talk about the Epstein files. I want to ask you something.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you're familiar with this. They put out this new Star Trek thing called Starfleet Academy.
Yes,
and I watched a little bit out of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the worst things to ever come out of Hollywood. It's really bad. I mean, I look at it and I'm like, couldn't somebody look at that and say, look, okay, you've got people of all races and ages and heights, and you've got people of all genders and no genders and all of these things that, okay, that's what Hollywood's gonna, or whatever. The writing stunk. The acting was horrible. It was, it was like you see like a sixth grade play when they do, their Christmas play, and one of the kids starts crying and gets scared and has to run off the stage, and his mother and everybody, oh, poor little first grader, and they all clap anyway, and he grins with his little snaggly tooth grin because that's the best he can do. I expected some of those people to run off the set crying and hug their mothers. It was so bad. What the hell is going on with Hollywood?
It's really bad here, Garland. I had heard about it. I've seen a few of the little advertisements. I had no interest in watching it, but now that you've set it straight for me, I'll know not to actually watch this. Not that I was going to, but this is where we're at. These franchises have been totally destroyed by whatever DEI woke stuff. We've talked about this before, but like a staple like Star Trek being destroyed like that. We saw it coming, I suppose. So I can't say we're shocked, but it's hard each time we see it. They take these things and they completely destroy it. And where did the good writing go? Well, it got taken over by whatever we want to call it, the DEI machine, the AI machine, whatever it is. It's cardboard cutout, cookie cutter stuff that has no substance or soul anymore. If you want some good substance and soul, go back to the original Star Trek, which was really about, it was organic as far as really talking about how a federation of planets would exist in a place where we had to all kind of work together and be part of this intergalactic communication with other planets. Like that was an innovative thing at the time, but now look where we are. It's pretty sad. It's pretty sad.
Yeah, it was. And what was interesting was the whole story and the whole taught something. It said something about society or reality or something. With this, every single character, each individual character is a lesson. Why this one's the gay person, this one's the overweight person, this one's the minority who was mistreated as a child, this one's the autistic person, And I'm like, we'll go move on, but I'll just say this: little things. They had one person that was supposed to be a what do you call it? A holographic figure, right? I'm a holograph. I'm not real. I'm a hologram, right? The hologram falls underwater. Well, how can a hologram fall underwater? Because it would just still be a hologram and be affected by water and be wet. The hologram falls underwater and yells, and bubbles are coming out of her mouth. But holograms don't breathe. Why would bubbles come out of the mouth of a hologram? And I'm like, these little things, somebody has to think about that. But I guess that's not the way it works. Anyway, let's get rolling. Let's get back to things that we only thought were Hollywood, but now they're actually real. I just did a show last night about, you might not have saw it, about the origins of COVID, which brings me to Bill Gates. Why is it every time there's a pandemic or something horrible happening that's killing lots of people, Bill Gates' name has got to be in the middle of it? What's happening with what do we need to know about Bill Gates and Epstein and pandemics and things of that nature?
Well, I mean, your viewers, our viewers over to the Homeless Left, we've been following Gates this whole time. So obviously, like you said, the pandemic preparation stuff. We know about Event 201. None of that is new for us. We get the idea that we know about his mRNA investments in 2019 and how he made $500 million. He cashed it out 3 years later, and that's when he all of a sudden was able to say, maybe we should have targeted people more during the pandemic that were elderly, that they were the ones being affected, the ones that had comorbidities, the ones that were overweight. So he said all that stuff after he cashed out and made his $500 million off of his initial $50 million investment in 2019. So we knew all of that. We understand that he, buying up these media spots, being able to go on and be an expert, right, a health expert when you don't even have a college degree. So obviously, that critique has already been there. I think the thing about the Epstein files, this last release, this 3 million files release, when we look at this pandemic response that Bill Gates was putting together, we knew 2019, that's when he really kicked things off. But when you look close at this, I don't, maybe I missed it originally, but I never suspected that Epstein and Gates were working together on this pandemic response. But no, they were. It's clear as day. You can go, guys, you can check out this email. They were plotting it since 2015. And so this preparing for pandemics, there's a very clear email that Bill Gates is sending Epstein saying, let's put this thing together. We're preparing for pandemics. We want to figure out how we're going to involve the WHO. Let's hope we can pull this off. That's a quote from the email. I hope we can pull this off. This is the type of stuff that we have to look at right now. And if people that maybe weren't watching our shows, weren't listening to our conversations, now might be a good time, especially if you were interested in the Epstein files drop and you want to see who we're gonna go after next. Bill Gates is the guy to look at, and we need to look at what we all went through together through this entire what we call pandemic.
Well, and just to give people a little bit of context, for those of you who may never have heard of Event 201, that was in October of 2019. Event 201, it was a tabletop exercise based on a fictional scenario. The Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security, in partnership with the World Economic Forum and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, hosted Event 201, a high-level pandemic exercise on October 18th, 2019. Now, according to what we were told at the time, they hadn't even thought about a possible pandemic because nobody was biting into a bat until like a month later. But for some reason, and what was this about? On October 18th, purpose, scenario. Let me see where exercise team. It's in here. Players, recommendations. Okay, it gets down. Watch this. The Event 201 simulates an outbreak of a novel zoonotic coronavirus transmitted from bats. Isn't that odd? Before even any thought of a coronavirus, clearly we were just lucky. We were just lucky that before somebody bit into a bat in a wet market weeks later, that they happened to just think, well, I'm not just going to happen, but let's just say something happened to a bat, which we're supposed to believe. We'll just do a coronavirus tabletop scenario in case there's ever a pandemic. Oh, what do you know? There is one. Who saw that coming? And Bill Gates, who, might I add, had been plotting with Epstein when he said, I wonder if we can pull this off. I don't think he was talking about the exercise.
No,
he was talking about the pandemic.
Exactly. I mean, that's what we would think from this. Now, obviously, it's not totally incriminating because you can say, well, we meant the exercise was the thing we're going to pull off. Okay. But like you said, like, how lucky for us that you were able to go through this right before it happened. But let's be clear. You guys practiced for it and then you failed. That's kind of like studying for your finals. We studied every hour of every day, every night, pulled all-nighters, and you still got an F. So that happened, right? And it's no different than we look back at 9/11. We say, oh, lucky for us, the project of a new American century happened right before the Twin Towers were attacked. So good thing we were prepared for it. But were we? Because we got an F on that one too. But it is interesting, the timing of these things. If anything, it was just total coincidence, right? But I would add this, Garland, the other part that, because we know the thing that we understand now is that 2015, this is 4 years before Event 201. So the amount of plotting and planning, and knowing that Jeffrey Epstein was 100% a Mossad asset, an Israeli asset. We're talking about involving Israel in this planning. And a lot of stuff starts making more sense now. When we've been looking at the numbers, we've talked to tons of experts, tons of scientists, tons of people that have looked at research and saw how the globe overall has been affected since the pandemic. We look at things like we're talking about fertility rates sinking globally. And then we ask ourselves, well, why is it certain areas, particularly Israel, we did not have any fertility rate sinking? We didn't have any of that. And it's very strange. And you look in Netanyahu's office and you see this trophy that he has. And this is not a conspiracy theory, guys. This is actually something he shows off. And we have plenty of footage of him showing it off. It's right in his office. It's a trophy of a syringe. It's his little, kind of COVID celebration of we did it. We got through. Our response was 100% on. So it's one of those things that's very odd. And I would put this also out there. Israel had a 98, 99% people signing up for the vaccine. So they were setting a precedent for the rest of the world to comply. So those numbers don't make any sense when you look at the global, the global results and where we are with all of the cancers and but these are unrelated, of course, the neurological problems and the cardiovascular issues we're seeing everywhere. But Israel seems to have had a lot of good luck. We'll just say a lot of good luck, uniquely.
Well, I thought it was interesting too, because it was like the first place was Israel, and they were bragging about everybody got it and all that kind of stuff. And I just thought that was interesting and weird. And the other place was Singapore, which is a British colony, right? Is it, completely run by the Brits, So I'm like, yeah, isn't it interesting that these places that they have total tight control over, they just like pump everybody up. Who even knows? Now, I've often said this. When I'll see, hey, look, Obama, whoever got his shot. We don't know that they got the same thing that the other people got. We don't know that they even got anything. We just saw something poking their arm. We don't know that they got saline solution. You know what I mean? I have also heard that the stuff they got wasn't the same stuff they got to everybody else. And if you remember when Trump got COVID and they used, what was the thing that they were using on the rich people that nobody else could get?
Well, the first thing he discovered was that hydroxychloroquine was something that was working to stop COVID. But as far as the vaccine itself, yes, we know. I think, well, you said this. It was a saline solution. We know that the people got that. That's 100% confirmed. We don't know who. So we have to figure out, well, who do we think got that and who didn't? But we do know there were 3 types of batches of this vaccine released. We've had doctors, people that have been on the inside that have showed us these numbers, this data, and we look up our batch numbers and we look to see where they fall in the line. But there were 3 different types. There was the one that was the saline, that was the fake one, right? The middle one was the one that I believe most people got, that had the thing that it was supposed to be, whatever that was. The third batch was the worst one. You did not want that one. The third one had the SV40. A lot of it put in, and that would be the one where you'd see their response to that was, let's just say, put it lightly, the response was not good to getting that third one. So we know those different ones existed. We know that, by the way, Pfizer gave out their own special batch to their employees. They've admitted that publicly on record. So this is not speculation, folks. We know that there were different people getting different batches on purpose.
Yeah, of monoclonals. That's what it was. That's what the rich folks got.
Yes.
Monoclonals. Right. So, I mean, the reality is that clearly there was different strokes for different folks. How we say there was definitely that. And now, I mean, look, you see, and I said this all along when I was I will not comply people. That ain't happening with me. And what I said was, look, I would have to believe that these people are operating in our best interest to say yes to that. And I don't. And now I look at this and I say, if you look at who these people are, I mean, think about it. This is a controlled release. The worst stuff ain't in there. There's nothing about Obama. I find that hard to believe. Nothing in there about Monica Lewinsky, we know good and damn well that Monica Lewinsky was the guy that let Monica Lewinsky in and out, right, all the time. Mark Middleton, that he was the guy that let Epstein in and out. What was it, 19 times or something, or 14 times? He signed him in and out of the whatchamacallit. He was found hanged and shot with a shotgun. Okay. Purely, obviously, suicide. It was ruled a suicide because that's what you do. You hang yourself first, then you shoot yourself with a shotgun. Initially, they said there was no gun, and then they said it was 30 feet away. Because after you hung yourself and you're dangling, then you shoot yourself with the shotgun. Then, I mean, first of all, shotguns are heavy. I don't know if you could throw one 30 feet, but after you've already hanged yourself and shot yourself, that's when it gets really difficult. But this guy found a way to heave the shotgun 30 feet away. So I'm like, I wonder if that had anything to do with him letting Epstein into the White House over and over, perhaps, right? Nothing in there about Monica Lewinsky, which we know was you know what I mean, on and on and on. So nothing Obama in there. Come on. So I know this was a controlled release, but just the stuff that you can find, even if only a fraction of it is true, should lead to an absolute all-out revolution. In my opinion, revolution. National strike, they all got to go, but we ain't going to do that.
Well, yeah, absolutely. We have enough with what they gave us. We have enough to move forward on our own. We don't have to wait for somebody in power to say we're going after, we're going to make arrests, because we know they're not going to do that. That's the point. You're protecting the powerful. You're accidentally releasing names and information of victims. Oopsie, we accidentally did that. No, so they're very clear what they're doing. And I agree, this is a controlled release, but we have to take advantage of that. And I tell our colleagues, I tell people we've been talking to about it for the last week here, we've been saying we have to do the work. We have to screen grab this stuff. We know for a fact, even the 3 million files that came out, those ones, they're disappearing. The count is going down on a daily basis. So even the stuff they put out right away, a lot of it is very important. We actually did get some stuff, and I think they might be playing with us. You could say they're playing these games. You know, we know they have a history of doing the quiet part out loud, being open about crimes. So a lot of it might just be fun and games for them, but we have to do our due diligence. We have to screen grab this stuff before it's gone. And thank God we have people doing that. Anything about the Rothschilds, by the way, the Rothschilds connections, those are what's disappearing right now. You guys can go check it out. They were there a few days ago. Now it's gone. So yes, you're right. The Clinton, Monica Lewinsky stuff wasn't even there to begin with, but we don't need that. We have enough of what we see now. And like I said, we have to be like assertive, proactive. And we need to grab this stuff now, and we need to use it the best we can. Even though a lot of it, and we said this earlier, a lot of it is just qualifying things that we already knew, but it's still valuable to us. I want people to know that the stuff we have right now is still valuable. Even though we already knew some of this stuff, it's going to help us with communication, with giving it to the public, people that have not maybe been paying attention, people that were writing off Pizzagate was a QAnon thing. I never wanted to see Sound of Freedom because that was something only right wingers went to see. So yeah, what is this adrenochrome stuff? No, we can actually have these discussions now because we have paper trails, we have timestamps, and we have something to go on. Even though, yes, it was a controlled release and there's stuff we'll never see, we have enough to work with as is.
You know what kills me? Politico, they've got this article, the most shocking things, and one of them is Larry Summers called Donald Trump a clown. Oh yeah, that's the most shocking thing in there. Summers called the most shock. That's they're going to tell us what the most shocking thing is. It has nothing to do with eating people, strangling people, torturing people, raping people. Who cares about that stuff? He called Trump a clown. My God, man. Outraged. You must be outraged.
No, but this is important. This is part of the technique of the controlled release that you're saying. So Garland, what's happening is they're creating that confusion. They're triggering people for things that they want to focus on, and then they're going to miss the other stuff. And so we see that a lot, right? We're seeing a lot of that on the left, right? We're seeing a lot of that. What did Trump do that was horrible? There was actually, we also have to watch out for the AI problem, because there are some of these files are not actually real, but we can find that out almost instantaneously. We got people working on that instantaneously. We can detect that there was this one file where Trump has a preference for what race of little girl he likes. That actually was fake, but like those are the ones that are distracting people. And then there's some real stuff that, like you're mentioning, that are distracting people, making it look like that's the important stuff. No, I don't actually care about Elon Musk and whether he had a helicopter sent to him or not. Because, hey, do you want me to send a heli? That's what Jeffrey Epstein wrote to him. I don't care about that. I care about the stuff you just mentioned, Garland. We're talking about these sadistic, culty, horrible, twisted, most darkest things that are coming out in here. Just for example, I don't know if you saw the George Bush Sr. File. This is actually really, really bad. And this has absolutely been confirmed that this is an FBI report of a male victim who allegedly was raped by George Bush Sr., subjugated to ritualistic sacrifice. He witnessed a baby being dismembered and intestines removed. And people on the yacht, the victim claimed, was eating feces from the intestines of the baby in front of him. That's in a file. So why are we talking about helicopters and what these other little things that could be important? But this is the real stuff, and it's in there, and it checks out, and it's real.
And here's the thing about it. There we go. Male Epstein victim was allegedly raped by President Bush and witnessed the baby being dismembered. Okay, here's my question. And I always get back to the FBI. If I read a document, if somebody had a document that said Garland, I don't know, robbed a liquor store last week, police would be knocking on my door, wouldn't they? If I had some witness that went forward, that liquor store, Garland Nixon robbed the liquor store and he shot the person inside 4 times and emptied out the vault and blah, 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 killed 10, beat 3 or 4 people in the parking lot, stole a couple of cars, all of the above. They'd be knocking on my door. There would be SWAT teams coming in the window. They would be rappelling down helicopters. Okay, which they should if I did it or whatever, if they think I did it. How is it that I read rape and murder and beating and torture and thievery and all manner of chicanery? I don't see any charges, any investigations, any SWAT teams. We're just supposed to look at it and say, my God, they did horrible things, but I guess none of them will ever be charged. That tells us who the FBI is, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, it's just absolutely disgusting that they can pull this off. And I guess there's people that buy this crap where Todd Blanche gets out there and says, hey, guys, we gave you the files. Just wanted to give you a little disclaimer, but any files that include death or physical injury or abuse, we did not produce those for you because, we didn't want to, it was a little too graphic for you to see. Okay. Well, you have it though. So are you going to pursue those people that are involved in what you literally just told us, death, physical injury, or abuse, which you actually have, and you're not showing us? No, you're not. You're not actually going to do anything about it. And then you're going to say, hey, it's not really a crime to hang out with a pedophile and party with him, so we can't really do anything there. He's saying, well, if we will bring them in. We will certainly do it if we're allowed to by the evidence. And I look at that and go, allowed. So if the evidence allows it, are you talking about the evidence allowing it? Or are you talking about your handlers allowing it? What are we actually talking about when we say what is allowed and what is not allowed? So that's what I think of. But you have Kash Patel out there doing his little, Charlie Kirk part 2, where he's like, we did it fast. Could we have done it sooner? I don't know. Probably not, but we're done with this. And he's literally going like this. We're done. It's over. And so that should get everybody should be furious about that. Nobody cares if you did it sooner or not. We want it to be actually done. So stop doing that game. He did the same game with Charlie Kirk. We're going for a world record on speediness. That's not what we care about, is speediness. We care about accuracy and we care about justice. And we're not getting either of them.
How about we go one further? They produced something that, and this is the actual game that nobody brings up. They left some of the files. We don't know. Of course, it's a controlled release. But if we're honest, what did we ask for? We asked for the list. We asked for the names. Mm-hmm. I mean, they gave us something. That's great. This is what we want. We asked for the names. We said you have like 220 girls who have come forward and been interviewed and gave you names of people who have committed these acts of rape and all kind of, mayhem and everything else. We want the names of the people that did it. They still didn't do that. Even then, they sidetracked it. Oh, you want the Epstein files? We'll see if we can find. No, we didn't ask for the files. We asked for the Epstein list. We specifically said we want the names of the perpetrators. We want the names of the accused.
Yeah.
So even giving us the list is it's taken away from one thing. What they don't want to do, they don't want to give us the names of the list. People forget that this ain't what we asked for.
Yeah,
that even this is a sidetrack.
Yeah, completely. And you know, look, I'll say the good news is I'm seeing a lot more people getting angry about this than ever before. Obviously, you know, we were there first. We were talking about it, but this isn't a race. Again, this is not about who got to the finish line first. There's people furious about this. They're pointing out exactly what you just said. I think people are getting smart about this, and they're saying we're all being played, we're all being conned. And by the way, they're all in on it. This is not a Trump thing. This is not a Dem thing. They're all in on it. And I think the biggest thing that comes out of this, okay, let's put the list aside. We're not getting it. They're protecting the powerful people. No one's going to be arrested. No one's going to jail. Okay, let's accept that right now. But here's a bigger thing that we have right now, right in front of us. We have 100%, without any doubt, the connection between Jeffrey Epstein as a Mossad agent, as an asset for Israel, the connection to Palantir, it's all there. This is the stuff we've been yelling and screaming about for the last couple of years. Now people can see it, and they can redact whatever they want. They can pull off they can take out all the Rothschild stuff, but we have this. It's 100%. Trump has been compromised by Israel. Jared Kushner is the Mossad asset that has been running our foreign policy this entire time. It's all confirmed in these files. So when you look at every decision, even in this last year, whether it is what we're doing, allowing Gaza to get turned into a parking lot, whether it's the Syria switch out into ISIS strategy, whether it's bombing the crap out of Yemen, and whether it's what we're about to do to Iran or what we've been doing to Iran, all of that is policy dictated through Epstein being an agent that allows these things, not just allows them, but forcefully pushes this stuff through. And it's been this way. And I think you mentioned this about Clinton. We don't have to see the Monica Lewinsky stuff inside these files, but we do know that this control has been in place well before Trump. We know it goes back to Clinton. We have enough here where the American people should be up in arms, and we will never unsee this. That's where I'm at right now. So I feel like we can use this, we can leverage this, and we can start having this conversation with people. We're not conspiracy theorists. We're revealing what's behind the curtain, and once you see what's behind the curtain, you can't unsee it.
You know, let me show you this. For those of you who are like, oh, Trump in the Epstein files, right? Epstein files reveal close ties to Trump's influential inner circle, right? So that's, you know, there's certain people, you notice the Democrats are kind of quiet about it. They're not going after Trump much with Epstein, but there's some certain articles, PBS, Trump, Epstein. Here's my question. Okay, for those who are screaming, Trump looks bad in the Epstein files. He looks terrible in the Epstein files. These Epstein files are going to destroy him. I have a question. In the fall of 2024, the Democrats were running against Trump, right? Had they released certain things in the Epstein files, he'd have been destroyed and he couldn't have beat Kamala Harris, could he? In fact, the Democrats had these Epstein, quote, died if he really did. We don't know for sure. We were told he died. According to legend, we'll go with this. According to the Epstein legend, he died in 2019. I don't know what to believe anymore. That means Joe Biden didn't win until 2020. Actually, he took power in 2021, didn't he? When he was sworn in. So that's 2021, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they had 4 full years to release him. And they could have held him out for an October surprise and said, we're going to release the Epstein files just 2 months before, 2 weeks before. And look at this. There's Trump. He's accused of this, and Trump loses. Isn't it interesting that they had the smoking gun to take Trump out? The Democrats didn't release a thing. So if it's Trump, the Democrats could have destroyed Trump, apparently. But they didn't, did they? Isn't it interesting that they had him for 4 years, held on to him? We know what Epstein files. Don't know what you're talking. I've never heard the name Epstein. That's my podiatrist, Dr. Epstein. Oh, you can talk to him if you. No, nothing.
You know, Garland, that is the question of the day, and I have to say, the response to that question, it's different than the other questions we used to ask. We've been asking the Democrats. We asked them, why didn't we have a primary? Why was RFK not able to sit down and debate with Joe Biden? Oh, because Joe Biden was the guy. We didn't need it. Oh, really? And then he had then you realized it wasn't a stutter and it was cognitive decline. Then you just put Kamala in, really. So you missed out on actually doing democracy. The thing so whatever. So there's that. There's why are we doing it? Why are we annihilating Gaza? Why is the Democrats paying for that? So there's these questions that up until now, every question we've had, they've deflected. Every one of them. They deflect. Stay on point. Stop Trump. Make Trump look bad. I think that a shift has happened. These Epstein files coming out. When you ask that question, Garland, when you ask Democrats that question, they're not deflecting. They're going, yeah. And they're getting angry. They're getting angry at their party. They're getting angry at anybody who told them they were the good guy, we're fighting the bad guys. They're angry because it's so obvious that you would do that if you were innocent. Of course you would do that. Why these? You guys remember the 37 felonies taken from one misdemeanor. What was all that? Why would you go through that? I think if we talk to Democrats right now, they're going to have these aha moments and go, yeah, that court stuff seemed a complete waste of time when you had this the whole time and you did nothing with it. This is their aha moment.
Yeah, I think you're right. And this is the one thing I love. Have you looked at this? There's all of these articles now saying, well, one thing's obvious. Epstein worked for for Putin. He was KGB. He worked for the Russians. Don't you love it?
This is hilarious. This is Caitlin Johnstone dropped this a few days ago. We covered it on our show. It's unbelievable. They're lining up to do this. I mean, we've done this, right? We've done this Russia asset thing. This is like a 10-year-old thing. But it's pretty phenomenal. Yeah, that you have these outlets like let's see, we have the Sun. We had a few of these, the Telegraph, Daily Mail. They all came out at the same time and said Epstein is a Russian agent because apparently, he had Russian girls flown to him from to the island because he liked Russian girls. So that makes so that's their whole spin on this, and they're taking it to town because they got to keep. What do they have to keep doing? They have to keep looking for excuses to keep the Ukraine war going, and this is perfect. So it's unbelievable. If you're reading these publications, the Telegraph, the Sun, the Daily Mail, they are locked. They're in sync doing this complete crappy take on purpose to fool their viewers. To fool their readers into manufacturing more, fear against Putin. Because, you remember Putin's trying to take over the world, and this is how he's doing it through Epstein. It's insanely funny. It would be more funny if it wasn't so pathetic.
And let me say this. I will guarantee you there's a lot of Monica Lewinsky and Clinton stuff in there. Let me show you something real quick. For those who think I've researched all this stuff. I'm never going to take a position that I can't support, right? Watch this. This is an article from biography.com. Linda Tripp was a former civil servant who worked at the what? Pentagon during the affair. She literally worked at the Pentagon when she was on the phone with Monica Lewinsky recording 20 hours of her phone calls. You think that's bad? It gets worse. Watch this. Let's look at Wikipedia. Now, I'm just going there because of all places, they're the ones that try to hide everything, right? Mm-hmm. So you can find it a dozen other places, but Wikipedia is the place that hides everything. Let's go right here. Early life and career. She later worked as a secretary at Army Intelligence at Fort Meade.
Wow.
Linda Tripp. Army Intelligence. So Linda Tripp worked for, she was a secretary, all right, at Army Intelligence. In the same way, you notice this, every time the Russians capture somebody and they bring them in, all the guys say, I was a cook. Everybody they capture says, I was a cook. I was not involved in anything.
Yep.
You know, they take his shirt off. He's got Hitler tattoos all over. He's a member of the Azov Battalion, but every guy says he was a cook. Everybody in Army intelligence was a secretary. Okay. She worked as a secretary at Army intelligence at Fort Meade. I will tell you where she worked at Fort Meade, because Fort Meade is in the county that I live in. And because of the place that she worked at Fort Meade was, is the biggest employer in the county that I work in. And when somebody tells you they work at Army intelligence, what they'll say is, I work, all they're allowed to say is the Department of Defense. I mean, like there's communities around here where like every single car has a sticker on it that says Department of Defense because everybody works at NSA. NSA. She worked at NSA. If she said she worked at Army intelligence at Fort Meade, she was at NSA. It is. I live in Anne Arundel County, Maryland. Anybody can look it up. The largest employer in Anne Arundel County. Let me say this, and I'll say this because she was retired. One of my sisters was exceptionally good at math. Both of my sisters, they were mathematical geniuses, right? When she was in high school, they called her up to the principal. Hey, we got some guys that want to meet you. You know where they were? Fort Meade. They hired her on the spot and brought her in.
Wow.
My sister worked at NSA for I don't know how many years. She retired from NSA. She could never say what she was doing, but I suspect it had something to do with math and computers, most likely. My sister worked in, so I know a little bit about NSA. I'm not saying anything about what she did. I don't know what she did, but I'll put it like this: it wasn't unusual in Anne Arundel County for a person that had exceptional skills. Happened to two of my sisters, one of them with NSA, one of them Navy intelligence, that they came in and said, hey, there's some guys that want to talk to you. Step this way. They keep their eyes out. That's what I'm saying. So Linda Tripp came from NSA.
Yeah.
And then when she was involved with this, literally, as it said, she was working in the Pentagon. What do you think she was doing? It's so clear this was an intelligence operation with Monica Lewinsky.
Oh, yeah. No, unless it's just another coincidence, we can just, chalk it up as another coincidence. But the point is, this information is available. You can find this. This is us doing our own research. It's there, and we can put the pieces together. And I would recommend people to go listen to, there's an ex-Intel officer named Ari Ben Menashe. He goes on the show. It's called Going Underground.
Yes.
Yeah. So he did a interview about 6 months ago, and it's circulating again on Twitter. So I would say, you guys, find this interview because he breaks everything down about, and this obviously before the files just got the 3 million dumps happened, but he's talking about that our government being captured by Israeli intelligence, by Monica Lewinsky, honeypot, all this stuff, based on Epstein using the leverage he has to basically push our foreign affairs all the way back through Clinton. He talks about these two-state solution deals that completely get hijacked because of the blackmail operation, because of the Mossad operation, because of Epstein, and this idea that, wait a minute, how did this guy Epstein, he's literally has that much control over our foreign policy? It's like, yes, he does. All the way back through Clinton, he's been doing this. So of course, right now, it's absolutely true that you have Palantir in place because of Epstein. That's also on the file. So you guys, we can piece this together, regardless of what they put out this last weekend, regardless of what they're redacting now, because you're getting stuff taken away. The Rothschild stuff, like I said, it's gone. But we can piece this together, like Garland, you're doing right now, just by doing your own research. We should be doing this, and we should be proactive about this because it's all there, and we need more people to be aware of this.
One quick more thing, I got to show you one more thing about Linda Tripp. You're going to find out that clearly she was involved in intelligence. A White House employee in the George H.W. Bush administration. Oh, by the way, he was the CIA chief. She kept her job when Bill Clinton became president. Interesting. Later, she moved to a position in the White House consul office under Bernard Nussbaum, who was involved in Watergate, and his deputy, Vince Foster. Tripp was the last person to see Vince Foster alive shortly before his death. But I'm not just going to say just because she worked for military intelligence, she was in the Pentagon, last person to see Vince Foster alive. Perhaps she pumped a couple rounds. Hey, Vince, maybe. Look, she was the last person to see him alive, all right, as they went for a walk. And as they said with the Thunderdome, 2 men enter, 1 man leave. Yes, she was the last person to go for a walk with Vince. I mean, to see him alive when he... It's so clear that Linda Tripp was military intelligence officer and probably working for CIA, military intelligence, everybody else. The whole thing was an operation, and I'm guarantee you that all that stuff's in the Epstein files. What was Epstein?
Oh, yeah.
He was probably going in and out of the White House, like meeting with Monica Lewinsky and Tripp. Hey guys, let's have a talk. Oh, what do you got here? Here's your bug. Wear this whenever you're. Here's some flowers. Make sure you wear them whenever you're around. Come on.
Yeah. Well, look, we're probably not going to see that from the files, but we can keep piecing this together. The information is available. We just have to do a little extra homework for it. But that's the point. We should be doing the work. We have to, because they're not. Todd Blanche ain't working on it. We know Kash Patel ain't working on it. So we have to do this work. That's the point. Let's go back to the Palantir part of this, because that's affecting us right now. This is the technology used to murder all the Palestinians in Gaza, make it into a complete parking lot. The technology, it's getting people in the supercomputer we talk about, the facial recognition, the AI anticipating behavior before it happens, all that stuff. That's Palantir. And in the files that we did see over the weekend when it was dropped, we did see and we can hear a tape of Jeffrey Epstein talking to former Israeli Prime Minister Barak to tell him, to coax him to approach Palantir founder Peter Thiel. This is a 10-year-old conversation. He says, we have, Peter Thiel's a great dude. And the Prime Minister, he goes, is that the guy that does it sounds like he's on drugs all the time? He's like, yeah, that's the guy. And he says,
yeah, that's him. Because he is on drugs all the time.
Yes. So you just go to him. We have a spot for you on the board, and this is going to be the company that goes. He goes, oh, who are these guys? I don't know who these guys are. I don't know Palantir. He's like, well, they're going to be the new thing. So you're going to be part of this. They're the brains behind the Silicon Valley boys. They're coming up, and you're going to be part of this. So this is basically Jeffrey Epstein connecting the dots to the tech bros of Silicon Valley, connecting it to Israel right through these conversations. This is so important, and they did give this to us. We have it, and we can start, connecting the dots on how we got to where we are now, where this, where Larry Ellison owns every single media company, and he's implemented his Oracle technology, and Palantir has got all the contracts. ICE is using it right now. ICE is using this technology right now. It's an app called Elite. We've covered this, so it all goes back to Epstein, and this part was in the files. So people need to take a look at that. That's the part they're not going to tell you is the important part, right? That's the part they put aside. But this is the part that we should be most concerned about, how it affects us right now.
Absolutely. And we know that what's going on in, you take this guy that got shot in Minnesota with the ICE, that they were had encountered him the day before. Now we know that one of the officers, an officer took a picture of a lady. He just snapped her picture and said, now you're going to be in our system and you're going to be a domestic terrorist. In other words, I don't need anything but your picture. We can put it into our system, and it's going to have it's going to have your name. It's going to have everything. So that tells me with that Palantir stuff, they had an encounter with the guy a week before. Well, they got his picture on video, so they knew who he was. And at that point, they can, who he is, what is he? Where's his phone? Find his phone. As Netanyahu said, everybody hold up your phone. You have a little piece of Israel in here.
Yeah.
So they just found that guy and plugged him.
Yeah. This is the scary part, right? This isn't just, we're right. You see, no, this is where we're all affected. We've been saying this all the time. What they do over there, they're going to bring here. It was not about immigration, guys. It was about putting us all in this database. And that clip you're referring to, Garland, that happened in Maine. And that was a woman, yeah, like you said, it was filming the ICE agent who is smirking at her, saying, you're in the system, we just labeled you as a domestic terrorist. She goes, for filming? He goes, yep, it's done, already done. And that is the technology at play. And they're getting us all in this computer, in this I guess supercomputer, where we're going to be called domestic terrorists if we film ICE. How about us talking about ICE? I guess that's a crime too. We can't even have this conversation. So this is how it affects us right now. It all goes back to those files. And we think that the files shouldn't even be called the Epstein files. They should be called the Mossad files, because he was just one piece of that. He was just the vehicle they used to infiltrate, to blackmail, to coerce, to basically push their agenda throughout our government. And this is why if you go to Congress and you walk down the halls, you got one particular flag that seems to, the foreign flag that seems to turn up on everyone's door. It's very weird. Randomly, it happens to be our greatest ally in the Middle East, but it turns out they're all for it. They all say Israel first. When you ask them, who's first, U.S., America or Israel, they won't answer, but they will wink, wink. Well, we have to put Israel first. And so there's a reason all that is happening. We've been talking about all these years, but this is proving it without a doubt that we have been captured, we have been infiltrated, and we have to keep doing the work because they're going to keep distracting us with Putin's going to take over the world, and Elon might have got on a helicopter. So let's stay focused and on point about what actually matters from these files.
Yeah, 100%. And there was something else I wanted to touch base on. Oh, on Minneapolis. So let me fill you in. I don't know if I talked to you about this. So I have some friends that were there recently and covered it. And here's what's interesting, because I was like, okay, tell me about what happened. And my one buddy says, he was there covering it. He had a cameraman with him. He had some, other people they were covering. I said, what was it like? He says, man, I was scared. I'm like, really? He's like, look, the cameraman had a black SUV that was just his vehicle. He'd owned this for a while. He says, and people were coming up like threatening him. He said he was scared to say, like what network he was from. He said people were like enraged, right? Now, I also have heard that there was some instance where there was some guy and people were yelling at him saying, oh, you're a Fed or whatever. No, I'm not. And then the ICE came and the guy hops in the car and so here's my point. I think he was like, I went there, like supporting the anti-ICE protests, he says. And he said, and like, I was kind of scared and it's like kind of out of hand. And it's like the people are wandering around looking for like anybody who maybe if they could find a Trump supporter to beat up or, like just it's turned into this thing of outrage. And my point was like, yep. I said, I bet you know how they do that. When there's a legitimate protest, they put in the agent provocateurs. They get people angry. They get people riled up. When people have a legitimate complaint, they get them out there. And then, maybe a pallet of bricks could show up somewhere. I'm just saying. But the game. And I thought that's what they're doing. They got people who are like, hey, I don't like federal officers being in my community, wandering the street, being violent. Perfect. They got a legitimate thing to protest. Now we go in there, we rile them up, maybe we shoot a couple people, rough a couple people up, beat them, make them little, make them a little, throw some gasoline on the fire and turn this thing from a legitimate protest to like an out of hand madness and craziness.
Yeah, that is the game plan. They do this is the blueprint they follow. And absolutely. I've also heard some people out there saying the same thing you were reported on that was happening in Minneapolis. We didn't have it as bad here in LA, but we saw, so we went out and covered the protest here. And luckily they didn't send the ICE agents out here. At least we didn't see them out in the open. I told people, if you go to the protest and you see ICE agents who are not identifying themselves, that's the difference between, so we have LAPD, they're all over the place. They're doing the thing. They're doing this thing. They're riling up the crowd. We know there's provocateurs placed in the crowd, fireworks, these fireworks going off and these, things getting all the graffiti. These are people planted to make it look like the people are out of control. But the difference between the LAPD, because they have to show their faces. You have to see, and you can yell at them, say, hey, what's your badge number? And they actually have to tell you that. ICE agents don't. They have their faces covered. So I tell people, if you see the difference between them is you see them, the ICE agents will not have their face. They will not identify themselves. So you have to have a cover ready to put over your face. That's what I say. You have to, because they have that technology. This stuff is not a joke. They have it in the glasses. It's called Elite, and they will scan your ass and put you as a domestic terrorist. They have that technology. The police, the regular police, don't seem to have it. Not from what I'm aware of. They don't seem to have the same technology. But anyway, regardless, police or ICE, they are certainly people placed in the crowd to make the crowd look like they're out of control. And we're doing dangerous stuff when we go out there. But that should not deter you. You shouldn't be staying home. And we talk about this, how they switched, the right and left switched Who's yelling to stay home and who's saying let's go outside. Remember, it was the left that said stay home during COVID, right? You're a danger to yourself. You're a danger to your friends and family, to your neighborhood if you step outside. And the right said, no, we have to go outside. It's our right to go outside. Now it's switched. The right says stay home, don't do anything. And the left say, no, we have to go outside. So I say just always be on the side of the people that want to go outside. How about that? Let's start with that.
Yeah.
Whoever is saying let's go outside, they're probably right. So I'd say keep at it, but be careful. Can I say, I just want to throw this on. We did notice that there was a change in Minneapolis, that Tom Homan actually did withdraw 700 ICE agents as of today from the streets of Minneapolis. That happened. That's a good thing. He took them out. And I think that has to do with the protests. I think that has to do with people showing up. So it's an example that by showing up, you actually do make a difference. So this is good news that we're seeing in Minneapolis right now. After all the people just going out there in the freezing cold and putting their life on the line and being out there for the right cause, it actually might have made a little bit of a difference, at least a small impact.
Yeah, and the fact of the matter is, if you're going out and you're going to protest, which I advocate for protesting, watch out for that stuff. Watch out for anybody, like somebody standing in front of the crowd going, yeah, come on, everybody, let's tear down. And the person has, a nicely pressed pair of khakis on, a nice 3-button golf shirt, maybe a nice shiny new pair of shoes. Hey, come on, guys, let's get up. Woo! Let's beat the pigs up. Let's tear the things down.
Yeah. Watch out for the Ray Epps. He says, go into the Capitol. We're going in. They're like, what? We're not. We just wanted to protest in front of the Capitol. Like, no, we're going into the Capitol. Oh, really, Ray Epps? Really? Is that the plan? Fed? And they're like, Fed. So we got it. And we can do that. You can do it. When you guys see something weird from someone that doesn't look, by the way, they're not with anyone. They're always by themselves, right? The person doing the thing, they're not in a group. They're always by themselves. So see who they're interacting with anyone. And they start doing crazy stuff, yelling stuff like go into the Capitol, or start throwing water bottles at police. Like, what do you do? Nobody does that. Why are you doing that? You say Fed, and everybody will join in. I tell you, it actually works very well. We used that technique last summer during the ICE raids protests in LA. And we just, you see the guy that doesn't look like he fits, and you go Fed, and then they have to go. They have to leave because everybody's yelling at him. It's great.
Yeah, it's like he's standing there and saying, now it's time to go into the Capitol.
Yeah, right.
And he looks at the cop and he goes, go into the Capitol. And they all go,
right.
It's time to move. And they all go together, like synchronized simmers, go in and they move the barricades aside, go into the Capitol, guys. That's the word. And they're like, into the Capitol. Darn it, that's right, into the Capitol. Quick, get the barricades out of the way. They're unlocking the doors, opening it right this way. I mean, literally, you know what it looked like? I hate to always stay on January 6th, but it looked like a premiere. Like they were going to put the velvet ropes out. The people just standing there like, Ray Epps, let's go into the Capitol. Yeah. And the cops are like, all right, time to move the barricades. They put out the velvet ropes. They're opening the doors. Come on over here. Let's get our selfies. Yeah. Just like I said, it was a premiere. Let's get our selfies in front of the Capitol.
Yeah, the selfies. Get your selfie sticks. Get ready to go. Let's all do a prayer circle, right? Do the prayer circle with the cops because we love cops. We're Second Amendment gun nuts. Oh, by the way, they don't like the Second Amendment anymore. Apparently, you're not allowed to have a gun now when you go out in public to defend yourself. Weird, right? Weird. Why are we not? The conversation we're having right now, Garland, why can't we have both sides understand that it's the same thing on both? That half the people understand that Ray Epps was a Fed. Half the people understand that the ICE protests are getting compromised. But it doesn't seem like there's many people that understand that both are true and that they do it to both sides. It's very strange. I hope more people can start seeing it's the same attack plan. They do the same thing to both sides. Like you said, when a protest starts having some meaning, starts having some leverage, they have to go in and screw it. They have to cut it off at the kneecaps. It happens on both sides. We have to be more aware of that.
Yeah, my buddy's walking around with a cameraman. Why do you want to threaten him? You know what I mean? I thought we were like supposed to be, you're supposed to be like, oh, cameraman, quick, let's get in front of him. Hey, we've got some things to say. You're at the press? Yeah, we got some things to say. Come over here and film us. That's great. That would be a great thing to say. Hey, a cameraman,
Yeah.
not like a cameraman. We must go beat him mercilessly and take his camera and pummel him over the head with his camera. The cameraman's not your enemy. But I guarantee you that the guy at the front of the crowd that's standing there saying, look, the cameraman, let's get him, guy. There's the Fed right there. Ooh, a black sedan. Come on, guys. Well, he knew that it wasn't the cop's black sedan because he just got out of the cop's black. He's like, oh, that's an old one. We got all of our black sedans to do. Oh, yeah, there we go. This way, a black SUV. Let's get these guys.
Yeah. Well, look, even with all the chaos, all the, and it's dangerous. It can be scary to do this and get out there, like we're saying, but it does make that difference. We do have these ICE agents that were pulled out. This is great news, and it shows that people can actually make a difference going out there. I want to tell a story of someone else that made a difference that we saw when it came to the Epstein files, because this is also related to the ICE stuff. When the people themselves can do something, we're not waiting for somebody in power to do something. We're doing it ourselves. So there was one of the emails in the Epstein files. It revealed that there was and this hits close to home here in LA. There was a UCLA professor. His name is Mark Tramo, and he's the head of, he works in multiple departments, the music department. He does neurology. He does like a science department as well. But what was discovered was that this professor at UCLA was emailing Epstein advice on how to get kids to suck harder. That's in the files. So what happened was this woman, she's on Instagram as Buster Talks, but her name is Susel, and she went out to UCLA by herself. Nobody was with her. She went out there on the campus on Monday for an hour with a sign saying "Fire Mark Tramo," and she yelled and screamed at the top of her lungs. And guess what happened? 1 hour later, the department head, Bob Fink, comes up to her and says, "We will not be renewing his contract. He's out. He's out." She did that. One protester accomplished that based on this email drop. That professor, that Mark Tramo, that disgusting pedo psychopath person, no longer works at UCLA. And that's because one person actually made a difference. One person did that. That is a great, it's a very important story. And I want people to know that happened. And you should feel inspired that you can actually make a difference if you go to the place and you say, no more, we want justice.
Yeah, I guarantee this stuff, because one of the things people don't, Christine, what is it? Ghislaine Maxwell, her whole family's a bunch of spooks. Her sister Christine is there, Silicon Valley. She was one of the developers of Magellan, the first search engine. Bill Gates, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was 300 million or something he provided to her for one of her projects. So Gates is sending money to Ghislaine Maxwell's sister. And there's nothing about Maxwell's sisters. I guarantee, because her family's a bunch of spooks, that there was all kinds of stuff, the stuff that most people don't know, all of those names, because people would start following a lot of stuff back to Silicon Valley. Whole lot. There's a whole lot back to Silicon Valley. There's a whole lot with Israelis involved in Palantir, and probably Microsoft, and all of these major people would be like, holy crap, I'm not using Windows or this. They would use any damn thing when they got finished with reading the stuff that's actually in there.
Yeah. And just looking at her dad alone, Robert Maxwell, we know he was a Mossad agent. We know he, I guess, randomly died in some boat accident. But apparently, when you look in the files, you'll see that he tried to extort. I don't know the amount of money, but some of his businesses were failing. He was trying to extort his handlers in Israel and gave them, said, well, I'm going to reveal what you're doing if you don't give me this money. And then he had a boat accident. So that's all in there, too. But we should know, Robert Maxwell, we should know this about him. This is a guy who was a media mogul who started the company McGraw-Hill Textbooks. That company, McGraw-Hill, is our textbooks in our education system. These are the books that we learned about history in. These are the books that we learned about everything. And it's so interesting that you have this type of influence through this family, through the Maxwells, through Epstein. into our education system. It's fascinating. We need to look at that. We need to relook at how we were being taught our history, how we were being taught our foreign relations and our lead up to where we are today, because that's taught in our schools. That's taught in our classrooms by a guy who owns the book publishing company that put the information out there for us. So this goes so far deep, Garland. We all need to relook at the things we were taught, but more importantly, the things that were left out. I think that is the biggest ploy of all on their end. That's how you get manipulated and conned by mostly by not by the lies you're told, but by the information that is deliberately left out.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And two names you want, Christine and Isabel Maxwell. They were involved in they were and are involved in a lot of Silicon Valley, developing a lot of software. Think about it. Their father was an Israeli spy. Their sister's an Israeli spy. Their brother's probably an Israeli spy from what I hear. So the odds are that they're Mossad and they're in, and oh, by the way, funded by Bill Gates.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, and you don't hear Christine or Isabel Maxwell. Nobody says, "Oh my gosh, she has two sisters." Most people don't even know. You wouldn't think she has any other family members except her father. So just a thought that people need to wake up and look into some of the things we're talking about. Matt, tell everybody where they can find you.
The Homeless Left. We are on every Tuesday and Thursday. We're basically on all afternoon. We're doing the non-tribal approach to news. We're on Rumble. That's The Homeless Left. And then, as you can see below my name here, it is on YouTube. It's called THL Presents. So yeah, catch us Tuesdays and Thursdays. We have a lot of good shows coming up. We got one tomorrow we're very excited about.
Keep up the good work. Garland Nixon here. Make sure you share this on all your social media platforms for those of you who can, whether it's Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee or PayPal. Certainly appreciate everybody that can donate. And of course, my P.O. box for those who use snail mail. Feel free to mail there. Thanks a lot. Share this on all your social media platforms. We're out.